All right. Pinups and dynamic posing. Sounds like a plan. Pinups will always be one of my favorite things to draw, mostly because it took me so freaking long to get to be able to draw them properly. Right? It was always so incredibly intimidating to draw female figures for the longest time. And it was, I don't know why. Honestly, like as I look back, right? As I look back into why I struggled with it, I'm gonna be completely honest. It's because I find it really hard to draw people I'm attracted to. Right? So whenever I would try to draw a really cute girl, I couldn't, and I'd freeze because I didn't know how to like get past that notion of like, boobies, hips, it looks so good. And then you're like, okay, damn it, Rod, you are throwing yourself off for no reason. So, in essence, what you have to realize is that humans are humans regardless of male or female, right? So if you draw a blob, a single blob, and you manage to give it limbs by drawing in the edges and giving it depth, if you manage to learn how to do that with your arms as well, you can learn how volume works, right? Following the edges of your shapes. Just following the outside edges, you can find a relatively easy way to find flow of your body. Let's eliminate the lumps from the shoulder and the neck and the head, right? Without those, our shape is relatively easy to move. The arms flow from the top to the sides, and the legs flow from the sides to the inside. So when you realize that that is a human structure, and the only difference between getting those hips or not is just pinching that little circle or that little shape, you pinch it in the middle, and you do the same thing. Now you have a person with a waist. And then just playing around with where you pinch it gives you different looks, right? If you pinch it down here, it's going to give you a different look. So you have the ability to make characters by just literally squishing a ball. So if you take this and you draw little circles, you can make any of these smaller to make this voluminous shape a little bit squishy. And on the outside edges, draw the outside of your legs. From the point where you want it to contact, you're going to draw a circle to determine the width of your leg. From there, it's all a matter of just connecting circles. You connect that circle, learn to overlap your shapes. And the whole concept of the human body becomes incredibly simpler. It doesn't matter where you're moving your shapes. Okay? You can move them towards you. You can move them away. If you make them smaller, they go away from you. If you make them bigger, they get closer to you. Irense. Ay, qué bien. Así que tengo de fondo mientras curro. No sé qué significa curro. Pero Irense aquí es una animadora y les quiere enseñar cómo animar. She is an animator, guys. Irense right here is an animator. And she is kind of like what I do. She wants to teach people how to animate without having to go to art school. So if you guys are and want to learn animation and you guys want to get a little bit of a Spanish practice, because she is Spanish, she is a wonderful channel. And I highly suggest that you guys go visit her. Es trabajar. Ah, okay, cool. El dialecto de España es un poquito diferente al mexicano. España. Voy a tener que aprender cómo hacer el acento. Español. Suena tan bonito. So as you guys can see, the flow from the body is always going to be from the outside edges, and then volume gets created inside. What's the sun? I thought my puppy was peeing on me, it was warm. El mexicano es más dulce, más cute. I don't know about that. No, I don't know if depends. It really depends on the person, I guess. Boom, circle, volume, legs. So now that you understand how to draw legs, all you need to understand is now how to draw the rib cage. The legs are really easy. You can start with a really simple concept like this. Okay? The ball for volume, the outside edges right here are gonna be matching your belly button. So wherever your belly button is, to the sides is the top of your hip bone. Your hip bone doesn't go like that, it goes like that, it goes angled. Once you angle the hip bone, you can simplify the whole concept into a very simple shape, which is just this. From here, belly button, top of my hip bone, top of my hip bone. Let me draw the leg so you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay? Circle, circle. Outside edge, inside edge, foot. Outside edge, inside edge, foot. When I want to add anatomy, I can add my anatomy on top of this. I have where my hip bones hit, so I have that little weird little pelvic area for your goodies. It's determined by in between these circles. That's the spacing for your thigh. And if you want to have a character that has thicker legs, all you do is add volume, but you always connect it back to your hip bones. You always connect back to the places where it doesn't really have any fat. In between, even if you have like all the belly in the world, that is still there. That connection will always be there. So if you learn to draw this simple shape, legs will be a thing of the past. You guys will not struggle with legs anymore. Okay? Because that is how your legs work. And you can rotate that in any direction, right? Because it's a simple shape. So you can make legs in all sorts of positions. Once you understand that it's not hard, it's just not explained right. Okay? So most of the time, this is the hardest part about drawing the pinups. Because the pinup, now all you need is a little tiny rib cage, right? You have this, you have white hip bones. And now your rib cage just has to be a little bit smaller. And you get curvature. So the roundness of this becomes your hips. When you overlap an egg-like shape, it becomes your rib cage. And when you add a compass at the top of that rib cage, you have yourself your collarbone. When you do that, you have access to the same type of thing right here. You can draw a circle down, and you can draw cylinders. The moment you find this magical point, that is going to give you your shoulders. That's going to give you your pectoral muscles if you're a dude. It's going to give you your boobs if you're a girl. It's going to give you your rib cage, your back muscles, all that from that little point. So, okay, Can you demonstrate any more neutral stances with a twist? Yeah, we can do that. But let's talk a little bit before we talk about posing. We have talked about the hip bones. So let's rotate them so you guys see what it looked like in every single position. So from the front, you would split it in 4, draw your points, draw 2 circles, and then draw the outside edge first, inside leg. When you get better, you'll be able to add anatomy to it. Okay? Simple, complex. Okay, and then it's not relegated to that styling either. You can draw anything you want coming from there for your like little cute animals and stuff like that that you draw. Anything that comes out of those angles from that shape is gonna look like legs. So it doesn't matter if it's a nice skinny leg or an animal leg, like a big little lump. It doesn't matter. It's gonna look like a leg. So but that's from the front. 3/4, the circle. We use circles to divide shapes. We don't use lines. In this case, it looks like a line, but I'm actually drawing a circle because that gives you the roundness that you need. Okay, so in this case, I find the side, I find my belly button. In this case, the other side of this is directly across. It's a round. So I have to keep that in mind, okay? It's not right here on the edge, it's around. That's why we draw that circle, so we have the whole roundness, the entirety. We have the front, the back, the side, the left, and everything in between. When we draw a circle inside, we have access to drawing a ton of mapping points to find reference things, right? We can find directly across for our ears. We can find like in between areas so that we can start determining like width of things. It's beautiful once you start seeing it for its usefulness instead of its annoyingness. So when you start learning perspective and you learn the usefulness of drawing guidelines and you learn to draw through your shape, you're going to have access to so much without any effort. It's not going to be any effort at all to do these things. But you need to learn those basic components. Otherwise, you can't access this. If you don't practice your perspective and your anatomy, you can't access that, right? It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. No matter how much stylizing you do, you'll never have the freedom that some people have because you copying someone's style means absolutely nothing to your understanding of how to move a shape in space. You can draw like Akira Toriyama, you can draw like RODGON, you can draw like anybody you want, but you understanding how they got there is very different than just being able to replicate. And I promise you, that most of the people that you guys look up to can do this stuff. They see things like this because that's how you unlock that. That's how you like let your brain go like, oh, now it's your turn, dude. It used to be the hands work. It used to be the hands job, but now it's the mind's job. Now it's not about what can you draw. It's about what will you draw. Yeah, rotating the circle solidifies your foundation. Like if the belly button is in the front, the leg is directly on the side, right? Draw a circle, go from or just draw a circle about the size of the thing. You can go from edge to edge. Your legs aren't in the middle of anything. It's literally the whole thing. Right? Your leg, your butt and stuff like that come later. That's muscles. Muscles come after. Before, you just have the need to do something like this. Okay? You don't need to do anything more than that. Your muscles will be mapped out depending on those things. Your hip bones here, that means that this is your hip bone. If that's your hip bone, that's your thigh. Your thigh is like a pill, and you have your calf that wraps around the back. And then your foot connects with a little bit of a thing in the back for your heel. Same thing here. We find this circle, then this, if it's a profile, this exact point is behind it. So that same circle is gonna be working for this leg. We do the same treatment, pill, overlapping calf, cool. Our spine comes from the back of this circle. The spine connects in the back of that circle, and it goes flowing up from that circle, okay? So if you have your legs, your spine is directly coming from the back of that circle. So if you have your belly button and you already mapped out your hips, your spine right here, that means that your rib cage has to be in front of that. So draw an egg in front of that, just an egg. This is going to be your rib cage. Your hip bones are already established by that circle. Just connect it. If you have a belly, the belly goes here. The love handles go over the hips. And if there's any booty, it goes from underneath the rib cage to where the circle starts. And that can be as big as you want. Boom. Put some BBLs in that shit. So then the egg, if you draw a circle at the top of the egg, it's going to give you a representation of the collarbone. So we draw an egg and a circle for our bodies. Circles for legs, cone, egg, circle. The circle is going to represent your collarbone. Okay? That is very important because it gives you a t-shirt line, and it also provides you the muscles that you need right here. If you draw like a little eye, it looks like a kind of like an eye, right? Like, Arr. But instead of having this like this, it reverses, right? The bottom line is gonna be bigger. Or you can just see it as this general shape, like a compass. And then just remember that this one's gonna overlap a little. From there, the egg provides you the shape of your rib cage. This gives you a front of your rib cage and a back for your spine. Remember how we were talking about drawing through your circle? Front, back. So if we draw an egg, I have my front of my rib cage and I have my spine. My spine gives me access to my circle on the bottom, right? And that circle provides me the information for my pose, regardless of what the pose calls for. Okay? Because now I have access points. And once you have access points, it's just a matter of knowing how to draw a line. Because it's kind of like connect the dots at that point. At that point, once you find these connecting things, use your pivot point, which happens to be the top of your hip bone and the top of that compass. Let's draw a head so you guys understand. And then this is gonna dictate where your arm goes. This is the outside of your arm. And then you connect it back to the front. You learn to overlap some shapes so that you can create depth. And you have access to arms. The collarbone has a very cool power. It can shift. So if you have your egg in your rib cage, if you want an arm to be down, like a normal looking arm is gonna have this sort of compass, because your arm's gonna come down, you're gonna draw volume, and then you're gonna draw your hand. Okay? Overlap a couple circles, and then you give a little bit of volume. What are you barking at? Hold on. Let me go check. There's no one there. No one there. Are you seeing ghosts? Yeah? Ghosts? Hell yeah, we have a party up in this. Hey, no, that's my seat. We have ghosts according to Mustache. Okay, so where were we? Collarbone. Okay, collarbone. So when it's pointing like this, when the actual compass is pointing down, your shoulders are gonna give a natural downward feel. Okay? When you have your collarbone straight, that's a very useful one for hands that are normally a little bit up, maybe bent over, grabbing something, or maybe an indication of you trying to like lift your hand a little bit. Okay? So that is what happens when you even it out. When you lift it, when you lift your arms, this is what happens. When you lift your arms, that compass goes up. That guideline for the outside of your arm comes up, and then you just have to connect it back to the body. Okay? So if you have somebody that is like creeping or something like that, you can do that. And when you start combining the compass in different directions, you end up getting very cool results. And the best part is you already have the spacing for your neck. So it's like, it really is a complex system, but it can be simplified by 3 shapes: a circle, an egg, and a compass. And that is all you really need to know when it comes down to connecting points of your body and how flow is supposed to work: outside, outside, inside. And then from there, it's all about modifying the parts. If you want a character that has really big upper body, make the compass really big so that you need more space to fill in the gaps. Modification is easy once you understand. Once there's an understanding, you can simplify everything you want. And then anatomy would go on top of this, right? You would study anatomy to get all the muscles and all the details right. So it's a combination of both geometric understanding and also taking the time to study how muscles work. But once you do, you can take that same structure and go from a guy to a girl just by changing a little bit of the design elements. We are not very different when it comes down to the actual structure of our bodies. It's just the stuff on top of it, the muscles and everything, that tend to differentiate it. And the scale of things, right? The scale of what I'm choosing, like the hips, I made them a little bit wider here. I made it a little bit narrower here. And everything else just gives you that feel. Do you do animation too? Somebody asked me that today too. Somebody asked me if I did animation, and it's the first time I turned down the gig. I do animation. I don't like animation though. So I said that I would find them a suitable replacement. So if you guys do animation and you guys want to give it a shot, like, I don't know what the project is, but I can work like your agent if you guys want. Just make sure that you guys are capable of animating, probably for more commercial things. And if you guys are up for the challenge, I can always forward your information. But you guys would be representing me. So I'm going to be very, very meticulous as to who gets those jobs. So if you guys want to send me a demo reel for animation and you guys want me to be kind of like a little bit of your agent whenever I don't have work, whenever I have work that I don't want, I can always pass it on to qualified artists. So if anybody wants to be in that little network, let me know. I need to make sure that you guys can do the work that I normally do. But if you guys are capable, then I'll be more than happy to provide you work whenever I actually pass on them. How do you apply with this perspective? Wait, what do you what? How do you apply this with perspective? Oh, okay. You guys want to see how easy it is to add perspective to things? Okay. I'm gonna show you guys with the most simple concept ever. Okay, we're gonna draw something that everybody can draw, and everybody can draw two little leggies. They can draw a little circle and another circle on top. Let's draw a little happy face, dude. Yay. Okay, we're gonna take into consideration what we learned today: compass, egg, circle. We're going to have the outside of our arm and then volume to the inside by connecting it back. Ta-da. So very simple, okay? If I wanted to add volume to this and make it look in perspective, the first thing that I would probably do is I would change the size of one of these legs. So I would probably make one leg a little bit bigger and make the other one a little smaller. The next thing that I would have to do is I would probably have to make one of these either bigger or smaller in order to make it look like it's coming to the foreground or the background. But I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller so it looks like it's behind them. That is the only thing that I needed to do to make the character look like it has depth. Now, he looks like he is standing forward, but it doesn't. It kind of looks flat. So I'm going to start connecting edges. So I'm going to connect this edge to this edge, but not with a line, with a circle. By doing it with a circle, I can now draw little circles throughout my whole shape that match the other whole circles that I draw. From there, I can determine volume for things, right? So for here, if I wanted to, let's say, add clothing, I would add that circle, just make it bigger to one side and connect it back to my hip bone. Make it bigger, connect it back to one of my connecting points. Cool. If I want to draw a belt, I just draw a circle connecting a point from this side to this side. And I draw the front only. If I want a t-shirt, do the same thing. Draw a circle, make it bigger or smaller depending on what you want, and add a little bit of negative space. If it's really poofy, you make that really poofy, and you connect it back to that circle. You use them like little limiters. So you can add a bunch of detail to anything you want, but you always have to connect it back to those ligaments. And if you do that, you can draw really cool stuff, like gloves and stuff like that, armor. The circle that you draw for the compass is already giving you the back of your spine and the front of your neck. So for a t-shirt, all you got to do is just double it up. For anything like a hoodie or something like that, you already have it going around, so just do that. So perspective is going to be based a lot on understanding how to overlap shapes. If you want to have him standing on something, draw a line behind him, draw a line in front of him, and then connect them. You want to connect everything in a way that is going to be pointing towards your character because he is your focal point in any given point, right? Anything. This is why I like to teach perspective like this. Let's call our focal point this guy. And this guy simplified would be something like this, right? So if he is my focal point because I want everything in the scene to be based on him, he is going to replace the concept of the dot in the horizon line. Okay? But we're going to play with it a little bit different. Let's say I want to draw something above him. But it doesn't have depth, right? If I want it to have depth, I just duplicate this, but in the direction of my dude. And then I connect the edges. Ta-da! Duplicate it based on him. Ta-da! I want it underneath. Draw it underneath. Connect it back to him. Ta-da! Circles, same shit, but and circles are kind of hard to differentiate and like guide. So I normally like to do circle practice like this by using a light source. If you have a light source, you can play with your thick to thins by just darkening the line behind it. Wherever the light source isn't hitting, you darken that. And then if you want to go the next mile, you can add a little bit of a shadow. And you can learn to do thick to thin line work. Again, this could be this guy, right? It's just a focal point. So if this is this guy and I want to practice that, maybe he shines. Pew, pew, pew. So perspective for me, it's just a matter of drawing boxes around. It literally is. It's just about drawing boxes around my character and then guiding them to however I need them to be in the scene to be with him. So I hated this method because it always looked super flat and boring, right? Because, oh, okay, I have to draw a box here and then all the lines here. And it's the same thing. It's just presented differently and it makes a difference. Because presenting it differently just makes your brain make it not boring. So let's draw a character real fast. Let's draw a really simple dude. Okay. Let's make him a little more complicated. Give him a mustache, beard, some glasses. I am so drawing myself. I always draw myself. Okay, so there's Rod. Let's say I want to have him on the ground. If I want him on the ground, I could draw him on a flat ground like this, right? And he would be on the ground, but it'd be kind of flat. There would be no depth to this. If I draw this with the line behind him, all of a sudden, he is standing on something. He looks like he is standing on the ground. If I move this even farther back, it can look like he's crossing the street or something like that. Beep, 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 beep. Now there's more to it, right? The moment that you start moving this up, you're generating more and more and more terrain. You can do that going forward as well. So, and then understanding capping it, imagine this is like a little mannequin box. If you think of your backgrounds like if you're drawing on a box, it becomes really simple. Draw a box. You can split that box into as many grids as you want. And then draw your character on top of that. Any trees and stuff like that will be easier to place on this. Imagine that you're drawing a set. And then if you need to expand the set, think of it like a puzzle piece. Right? If you need to expand this, you can always expand it as if it was like a little Lego set. And then if you need to make it even more, you can make a bigger piece. This is how I visualize elements like backgrounds and stuff. I imagine them as set pieces. And then I just crop out the parts I need. Like if I was to do this, I would build all this stuff up, and then I would just crop it. And then I would have my piece exactly how I want it, not complicated at all. And it would be exactly as I imagined it. That's just how my brain works, though. It's very different than other people. Like some other people like to do the whole environmental scene. And which you can, you can set up the piece, you can do the horizon, and then like all your little lines. And then you divide everything into like a foreground, a middle ground, like trees and stuff like that, and a background in the form of like mountains and stuff like that. Okay, so you could do that. That's effective too. It's just a different way of seeing it. Okay, so foreground, middle ground, background, or mannequin. The way you think seems less rigid. I mean, it's just different. People see it differently. Some people see it one way, some people see it the other. And it's good to be able to teach both ways so that people don't get left out. If one thing I've learned over the years is that learning how to teach is one incredibly hard task. It's incredibly tough to teach everybody the same, so you can't. You can't teach everybody the same way, and that's why I give lessons in so many different types of ways of seeing things. Because I felt left out when I was younger, right? I felt left out because I didn't understand the things that people were explaining. And I don't want people to feel like that. The people that learn from me will understand through logic and through different ways of seeing it to be able to see things. And I'm going to make it a goal as much as I can to be able to simplify the concepts of anatomy and perspective so that everybody can access them. Because it took me about 20 years to be able to get good enough to the point where I can say like, oh, I can do this. And I don't want people to take 20 years to do this. Yeah. Like within my lifetime, I want to be able to say that I have helped a little bit with the next generation of how to be able to draw easier, quicker, more effectively, and with more depth so that we can push our art form to the next level. Right? Like that's what we should aim for. Like teach the next generation so that they can grow the art form into what we need. Into the next level of entertainment, the next level of everything. If you don't push your younger people to do so, like nobody will ever progress really. And this is gonna sound really mean, but that's why the tattoo industry doesn't really get better. That's all I'm gonna say. You don't see a lot of growth in that industry because everybody gatekeeps all their knowledge. Or they make people go through a strenuous like tasks that make them want to not do it to other people. Like apprenticeships are just garbage. 2 years to teach someone how to do something, fuck's sakes. I will always have issues with that. Let's get as much free labor from you before we teach you anything. Fuck that. Predatory fucking systems. Again, this character, we could put him on a flat plane. That character would look okay. But if I add a little bit of a depth behind him, it looks a little better. If I start adding elements that are going to be pointing towards my focal point, which is her, I can start adding things like water bottles, which are just boxes pointing towards them. Point the box, duplicate the box. You have something on the ground, and then you can make that into a bag or something like that. If you have the ability to know how to do that, you have enough reference points and stuff. Okay. Little things like background elements, and she's a dancer, so there's like a little thing like that. Maybe there's a mirror, and then she's like looking at herself in the mirror. No. Chuck Norris. I've been trying to teach myself as much as I can before I try to go into it. Yeah, that's a good thing. That's how it should be. You should aim, always aim to learn as much as you can before you delve into something. That's a great thing. I highly encourage that. Let's see. You guys don't see me draw with pencil often. So there was a very long time in which I never drew feet because I was horrible at drawing feet. So I would avoid drawing feet like my life depended on. When I realized that feet are not very different from hands, and I learned how to draw hands really good. So I was like, I've just been being taught wrong. Oh, okay. So we have our compass, and we can have something happening here, like our hand, and then our hand has to go somewhere. So remember, outside of their arm, inside volume. So maybe she'll be holding like an ice cream cone or something. That's tilting. And then she'll be like, yes, ice cream. Boobs are like a little heart coming from that circle. And then you just taper this to your heart's content. Your faces are going to be dependent on the stylings that you like for your characters. If you like anime, you can render it like anime. If you like pinups, render it like a pinup. If you like realism, aim your hardest to be a realistic artist. It's perfectly fine. It's normally when we try to adapt to things that we don't like, but that other people do like, right? And we're constantly trying to aim for like, I want to make something that's appealing for people. And you forget to make it appealing for yourself. That to me is the trigger right there. Like when people don't really take the time to do things for themselves. They do it for other people, and that's because that was me, right? That was me. Like I always did everything for the likes. And then the moment that I started doing it for me, that's when I started seeing growth. And I was like, but why are people following me for this? This isn't worth following. And I had like this horrible self-image. Like, it was like, like, why would anybody follow me for my art? Well, I have to draw pinna. I have to draw like fantasy art. I have to draw fan art. I have to draw all this stuff. But I didn't have to. Like, I just didn't have any confidence in me. And when I started having confidence in myself, well, that's when I saw an exponential growth in my followers, in my output of material, in the information that I could put out, in the confidence with talking to clients. All that stuff just shot up exponentially the moment that I started being more confident in my work. Let's see. What type of... I want perky boobies. I already have the t-shirt line, but I get to dictate if I want to make it bigger or smaller because I already have it, and that's also my collarbone. So it gives me access to all those little mapping points. T-shirts, if I want to draw a t-shirt, it's just about finding 2 points, drawing a circle, finding that volume, and then choosing to either make it a little bigger, points, drawing a circle, finding that volume, and then choosing to either make it a little bigger and now you have a shirt that's like bouncing up in the air, like, yay! Our hip bones are already established. I already have the inside of my hips. I have the middle, so I already know where my belly button is. The belly button dictates where the upper part of my hip bones are going to be on each side. So I just got to connect things. If I want to give her clothing, again, it's the same. I can draw circles and then expand those circles and connect them back to my connecting points. It gives me negative space, and it gives me the ability to draw folds. Now, clothing in general is going to follow that pattern. Find the outside edges, connect them, in any negative space. If you have extra ones, extra folds, you just have to follow these lines to be able to get that same roundness. Okay? Any details like side stripes and stuff like that, again, can be easily mapped out by just drawing with the same circumference as the outside. From here, you're going to end up getting folds. Clothing tends to bunch up in certain points. Okay, whenever there's like a cross section of your bone or a muscle, you're going to end up with little tension points that increase tension in your drawing. Whenever you end up getting those, let's say we have socks. We're going to draw some circles. Whenever you're getting to a tension point, use these little circles to determine where those little folds are going to go. Because these little folds are just material that's just curving. So essentially, if you have like a straight cylinder, it would look like that, right? So if you start bending it, it's going to start compressing. This becomes lumps. As you get more bent, those circles overlap a lot more, and they end up getting more lumps. See what I mean? This just starts coming down. So if you see it like donuts that just overlap each other, and you choose which one of these you overlap, you'll always have that depth. So think about them like little donuts that overlap. Shirts are the same. I want to give her a kind of like a tank top though. So from here, I'm going to go around her arm, and create my tank top. The tank top conveniently also makes it so that I have a nice little circle so that I can draw one more circle, two more circles, and then start drawing my arm. How convenient, huh? Even though it doesn't match my sketch completely, the sketch will be adjusted depending on what my line work is needed. In this case, my arm is coming forward, so let's change the hand so it looks a little bit more cool. And in this case, I still want her holding an ice cream. So I'm going to draw my ice cream cone first. Then I'm going to draw my fingers going around it. I draw my hand first because the rest of my wrist and stuff like that would be blocked a little bit with most of the palm. From there, ice cream would be dripping, but I want it dripping that way. So all the balls are gonna like kind of overlap a little bit, and they're gonna start tilting that way. Draw a couple drops on her just to enhance the feel of the storytelling. And we'll make her in water because we did not leave enough space for our feet. Boom, boom, a little bit of contrast, and the whole drawing comes to life. If you put something dark next to something light, it's going to stand out. If you put something dark next to something light, it makes it stand out. If you put something dark next to something light, it'll stand out. If you have two things that are the same color or the same tone next to each other, they don't stand out, see? But the moment that I go in and just highlight a tiny bit, a minuscule amount, it pops that stain out like no one's business. So understanding that simple concept as well, that's one of my favorite sketching things, like using contrast to enhance a drawing. It doesn't matter if it's a simple sketch like this. This sketch would be completely missed and lost if I didn't do this. And it becomes a highlight point for this page by the moment that I do that. Now you have to look at it, right? If I highlight a certain aspect of my drawing, oh, now it became, that's the important part. See what focal points do? Focals, they're so good. Very few people really teach them right, though. Contrast is one of the most under-taught things and one of the most important things in general in all art. In all art. And it makes or breaks a person from being a good designer or a bad designer. Like, you can have two people that are incredibly competent, amazing artists, and the person that has the better contrasting artwork will be the one that stands out. So when you get to a higher level, you're going to realize that that's the measure of understanding. What if you're absolutely new to art? We should start learning first. Start learning your circles. Start learning circles, because circles, if you learn how to draw a lot of circles, you can draw cool things. If you learn how to draw a lot of circles, you can already start doing interesting things, right? The circle gives you depth. So once you learn how to draw a circle inside of a circle, you have guidelines. When you draw a circle inside of a circle, it gives you depth. So you can learn how to slice something. So what you do with those little tiny construction nodes, right? If I teach you how to draw something from side to side, and I teach you how to draw the ear, now you know where the other ear is, and you won't be as confused when you're drawing your faces. So understanding that, foreshortening is like it's like a 3 out of 10. Foreshortening is really easy to learn. Foreshortening is essentially the concept of just seeing something come towards you by making it bigger. So 3 circles, okay? If I make one smaller and then connect the edges, it looks like it's going to get smaller. If I make that even smaller and smaller, it looks like it's going away from you. If we take those 2 circles and I make one bigger and even bigger, the concept is going to look like it's coming towards you. So that alone, that simple thing, it's that simple. It's just a matter of applying that to different things like legs and arms. that tends to be difficult for people. But once you understand how to connect everything with a circle, well, then everything becomes a little bit easier. But it's something I can explain easy, but it's something that's going to take a while for you to understand properly. Because you need to learn to overlap your shapes. You need to learn to draw through your stuff so that that actually looks like you want it. Right? You can't always just draw something bigger and expect it to look good. You have to draw it bigger, but understand how and where that positioning goes. So anyways, we are going to be done here for now. Thank you so much for joining our stream today. To the 29.8 thousand people that clicked that little button, I hope your fingers do not hurt too much. I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. I will be streaming over on YouTube a little bit after this, and that one is going to be a suggestion stream. So what I mean by that, it means that you guys get to, if you guys feel like supporting, you guys can come donate there and ask more specific questions, and I will give you guys more detailed answers to your asking. So that is what I do to be able to fund different equipment in my studio, as well as sell books and stuff like that that you guys can purchase. But I want to make sure that you guys get something out of it, right? You have to get something out of something that I give you. I can't just be giving me money for no reason. I don't feel good doing that. That doesn't make me feel joyful. That doesn't make me feel like I'm bringing anything to the table. So I would rather you guys get something in return. And if that is knowledge, then it's going to be targeted knowledge that I can give you guys more specialized, because otherwise I don't feel like the value is there. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for being my buddies. Thank you for drawing with me. And yeah, this is my favorite time of the day. So hope you guys enjoy it too. It was a pleasure. Hope you guys learned a lot. Tune in tomorrow or maybe even later today for another stream here on TikTok. If you guys want to catch me on YouTube and learn something there, we will talk a little bit more in depth about some topics that are specific to what people ask. Again, it's your request thing. And I'll see you guys soon. Oh yeah, sketching with Wes in the mornings. Go sketch with Wes. He teaches you stuff that I teach, and then he puts his own spin on it. Go follow him. Anyways, later, Gators. You guys have a lovely day, okay? Bye.